Are you sure, Kevin? How could something like that happen?
Drake understood right away how serious this was, and his mouth started to get dry. If Kevin told his father Mitchell Cook, he'd have to worry about more than getting tossed in the lake. His father had the worst temper of anyone he knew. Have you ever known me to be wrong? I'm at Downtown General. Drake, you've got 2 hours to return the money or you'd better be wearing swim trunks. When Kevin finished talking, he hung up the phone.
Kevin, hello? Hello?
Drake angrily threw his phone on the table and glared at Conrad, who was just sitting there enjoying his latte. The next thing he knew, Conrad landed on the floor with a loud bang. Drake, what's going on? What did I do? Conrad struggled to figure out why he was getting the crap beaten out of him.
What's going on? Why didn't you tell me what's going on with you? Did you start Pittsburgh International Trading so you could bilk people out of their money? And did you terrorize them with explosives?
Drake picked Conrad up by his neck and growled angrily. Please stop, Drake. Yes, I started Pittsburgh International, but I brought in almost $200 million. Isn't that great? Conrad looked like he was going to cry as he tried to explain. As for the explosion, it was a clean job. The cops will never find a clue. And anyway, the people I swindled were nobodies.
Good job, you dumbass. I hope you'll be happy when I disappear and end up in the foundation of the next skyscraper that goes up in Chicago, Drake roared. Do you know how much you've hurt my business screwing around like that? How can I possibly have hurt you, Drake? But if anyone's going to take the rap for this, I'll do it. Conrad begged Drake to let him go. He'd rather face the police than him or his father. I'll tell you what you did. One of the people you grifted was my good friend Kevin's mother-in-law. Drake moved his hand up to Conrad's throat and threatened. Return all the money immediately or our partnership is over. The hard way. All right, I'll pay them back right away. Conrad was really scared. He had known Drake for almost 8 years, and this was the first time he'd ever talked to him like this. As Conrad was walking toward the door, Drake stopped him. What else do you want from me? He asked him timidly. You're going to Downtown General Hospital with me. If Kevin doesn't let you off the hook, you'll have to deal with the both of us. Drake grabbed his coat and strode out of the room. A half hour later, while Niles Walford was still bragging to Dorothy, Drake and Conrad walked into the emergency room. Hey, isn't that Conrad Ferguson? Someone said loudly. A group of people started to surround them. Then someone else yelled, The guy with him looks like Drake Cook. What's Drake doing here? Dad told me he didn't know him, Niles wondered. Maybe he got a hold of Dominic after all. Niles started to feel really important when he thought that his family was responsible for this. Drake was actually returning the money in person. Just then, Drake shoved Conrad towards the women. What are you waiting for? Do you want me to hold your hand or something? Don't worry, I'll do it, Conrad moaned. He stepped in front of them and explained. I'm sorry, but we had some technical issues at the company and I wasn't able to return your investment. I've managed to transfer enough funds to reimburse you. Plus, I heard about your unfortunate accident, so I've included some interest to help you out. Conrad was very handsome and knew how to handle the upper class. He did his best to distance himself from the explosion so nobody would suspect he'd been involved. We'll consider this matter settled then, but if you do something like this again, you'll have to deal with me. Niles Walford raised his chin high and took on a threatening tone toward Conrad. Dorothy and the others all looked at Niles and had the same thought. He really is from an important family. Look at all his connections. Conrad looked at Niles in shock for a few seconds. He actually thought that Niles was Drake's good friend Kevin. Out of fear, Conrad nodded and replied, I swear I'll never do it again. Just remember your promise. Then Niles turned to the other man and sneered. And are you Drake? Why don't you come over and apologize to these nice ladies? He decided this was his chance to show that he was superior to Drake Cook. Then nobody in all of Chicago could touch him. As soon as Niles said this, Conrad started to worry. He thought to himself,
Who is this guy? How can he get away with talking to Drake like that? Dorothy and the others were ecstatic. They knew all about Drake's reputation and they'd never expected Niles to force him to apologize to them. Drake turned and looked at Kevin, but Kevin rolled his eyes as if to say, I have no idea who this guy is. Deal with it any way you want. Drake instantly understood and walked slowly towards the crowd. Niles, don't be too hard on him. After all, Drake is also a very important man. Dorothy was trying to seem generous, but inside she was feeling very pleased with herself. All she could think of was how she would make Lily divorce Kevin so she could marry Niles. Then everyone would look up to her again. Her friends were impressed and thanked Dorothy for getting Niles to come down to the hospital and take care of their problem so quickly. It was really starting to go to Dorothy's head.
What did you just say?
Drake scowled and walked over towards Niles. I asked you to apologize, but don't you understand plain English? Niles said arrogantly. He knew that Dominic Archer was a powerful man. With Dominic's backing, Niles was about to make Drake Cook apologize in public. This would do wonders for his street cred. He felt really good about himself for about 5 seconds. Then Drake punched him right in the gut. He hit the floor like a sack of potatoes and lay there for a good long time, unable to stand up. Everyone was stunned by this. What the heck was going on? Didn't Niles call Drake to come down here and apologize? Why did he just punch him in the stomach instead? Niles puked a couple of times and his body started to shake. What he didn't know was that his day was about to get even worse. Niles had convinced Dorothy and her friends that he'd arranged for Drake and Conrad to come down to the hospital and return their money with a personal apology. Suddenly, Drake punched Niles in the stomach, leaving him writhing in pain on the floor.
How dare you hit me?
Niles struggled to get up from the ground, but he just couldn't seem to do it.
Who the hell are you? Nobody talks to me like that.
Drake growled at Niles, and you could feel his anger building.
Didn't you bring Conrad Ferguson here because my father sent you?
Niles asked hesitantly.
Are you brainless or something? We came down here because Kevin sent us.
Drake pointed at Kevin, who was standing off to the side shaking his head.
Open your eyes and take a good look. That's my buddy Kevin over there.
Everyone looked in the direction that Drake pointed to. They were all stunned. Kevin waved to them with a big grin on his face. Dorothy's friends all stared at Kevin in disbelief, thinking to themselves, Isn't that Dorothy's son-in-law? How come he's friends with Drake? I thought Kevin was a nobody.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.